Chapter 5. Back on this side of the door. Because the game of hide and seek was still going on, it took Edmund and Lucy some time to find the others. But when at the last they were all together, which happened in a long room where the suit armor was, Lucy burst out, "Peter, Susan, all of you! Edmund has seen this too. This is a country. You can through the wardrobe. Edmund and I both died. We met one another in the woods. Go on, Edmund. Tell them all about it." What's all this about, Ed?" said Peter. And now we come to one of the nastiest things of this story. Up to the moment, Edmund had been feeling sick and so annoying for being right, but he hadn't made up his mind what to do. When Peter suddenly asked him the question, he decided all at once to do the meanest and most spiteful thing he could think of. He decided to let Lucy down. "Tell us, Ed," said Susan, and Edmund gave a very supery look as if he were far older than Lucy. There was really only a year difference, and then a little snigger and said, "Oh yes, Lucy, and I have been pretending that all our stories about a country in the wardrobe is true. Just for fun, of course. There's nothing there really." Poor Lucy gave Edmund one look and rushed out of the room. Edmund, who was becoming a nastier person every minute, thought that he had scored a great success, and went on at once to say, there she goes again. What's the matter? What's the matter with her? That's the worst of young kids. They always..." "Look here," said Peter, turning on him savagely. "Shut up. You've been perfectly peacefully blue ever since you started this nonsense about the wardrobe, and now you go playing the games with her about it and setting her off again. I believe you did it simply out of spite." "But it's all nonsense," said Edmund, very taken aback. "Of course it's nonsense," said Peter. "That's just the point. You was perfectly all right when we left home, but since we have been down here, you seem to be either young, queer in the head, or else turning into a most frightful liar. But whichever it is, what's good to do think you do by cheering and nagging at her one day encouraging her the next?" I thought," said Edmund, but he couldn't think of anything to say. "You didn't think anything at all," said Peter. "It's just spite. You always like being beastly to anyone smaller than yourself. We've seen that at school before now." "You stop this," said Susan. "It won't make things any better, having a row between you two. Let's go find Lucy." It was not surprising that when they found Lucy a good deal later, everyone could see that she had been crying. Nothing they could say to her made any difference. She stuck to her story and said, "I don't care what you think, and I don't care what you say. You can tell the professor, or you can write to Mother, or you can do anything you like. I know I met a fawn in there, and I wish I stayed there, and you are all beasts." It was an unpleasant evening. Lucy was miserable, and Edmund was beginning to feel that his plan wasn't working as well as he had expected. The two older ones were really beginning to think that Lucy was out of her mind. They stood in the passage talking about it in whispers long after she had gone to bed. The result was the next morning they decided that they really would go and tell the whole thing to the professor. He writes to father, he thinks there is really something wrong with me, said Peter. It's getting beyond us. So they went and said, come in, and got up and found Jason's chairs for them and said he was quite at their disposal. Then he sat listening to them with the tips of his fingers pressed together and never interrupted till they had finished the whole story. After that he said nothing for quite a long time. Then he cleared his throat and said the last thing either of them expected. How do you know? He asked. How do you know? He asked. That your sister's story is not true. Oh, but began Susan, and then stopped. Anyone could see from the old man's face that he was perfectly serious. Then Susan pulled herself together and said, but Edmund said that had only been the That is a point, said the professor. It certainly deserves considerations. Very careful considerations. Some instinct. If you will excuse me for asking the question, does your experience lead you to regard your brother or your sister as the more reliable? I mean, which is the more truthful? That's just the funny thing about it, sir, said Peter. Up till now, I have said Lucy every time. And what do you think, my dear? Said the professor, turning to Susan. Well, said Susan, in the journal, I say the same thing as Peter. But this couldn't be true at all. This about the wood and the fawn? That is more than I know, said the professor. And the charge of lying against someone whom you have always found truthful is very serious thing, a very serious thing indeed. We are afraid it might even be lying, said Susan. We thought there might be something wrong with you. Madness, you mean, said the professor quite coolly. Oh, you can make your mind easy, but that one has only to look at her and talk to her to see that she is not mad. But then, said Susan, and stopped. She had never dreamed that a grown-up would talk like the professor, and didn't know what to think. Logic, said the professor, half up to himself. Why don't they teach logic at these schools? There are only three possibilities. Either your sister is telling lies, or she's mad, or she's telling the truth. You know she doesn't tell lies, and it is obvious that she is not mad. For the moment then, and unless any further evidence turns up, we must assume that she is telling the truth. Susan looked at him very hard and quite put an expression on his face that he was not making fun of him. But how could it be true, sir? Said Peter. But do you say that? Asked the professor. Well, for one thing, said Peter, if it was real, why doesn't everyone find this country every time they go in the wardrobe? I mean, there was mothballs. Nothing there where we looked. Even Lucy didn't pretend there was. What has that to do with this? Said the professor. Well, sir, if things are real, they're there all the time. Are they? Said the professor. And Peter did not know quite what to say. But there was no time, said Susan. Lucy had no time to have gone anywhere, even if there was such a place. She came running after us the very moment we were out of the room. It was less than a minute, and she pretended to have been away for hours. But is there a very thing that makes her story so likely to be true? Said the professor. If there really is a door in this house and leads to someone up, if there really is a door in this house that leads in some other world, and I should warn you that this is a very strange house, and even I know very little of it. If, I say, she had got into another world, I should not be at all surprised to find that the other world had a separate time of its own. So that however long you stayed there would never take up any time of our time. On the other hand, I don't think many girls of her age and would invent that idea for themselves. If she had been pretending, she would have hidden from a reasonable time before coming out of the telling her story. But do you really mean, sir? Said Peter. That there would be other worlds all over the place just around the corner like that? Nothing is more probable, said the professor, taking off his spectacles and beginning to polish them. While he muttered to himself, I wonder what they do teach them at these schools. But what are we to do? Said Susan to himself.